a new band of rebels arose who were determined to carry the fight to Jerusalem.
The SICARRI.
To the SICARRI, anyone who wasn't fighting the Romans was a collaborator and worthy of death.
Many were slain every day, and the fear men were in was worse than the calamity itself.
Alright, first and foremost, we give all praises, honor, and glory unto the Most High God, Yahweh, and we do so in the name of His only begotten Son, who the Word only calls Christ, Yahweh Shai. It's the brother Chief Priest, Alazar Ben Lawyer, a.k.a. the Guerrilla Hebrew of the SICARRI. And I'm just going to do this video briefly concerning Dr. Boyce Watkins in a recent video that he did. I literally just caught this moments ago. Watch it, very brief, 1 minute long. You know, I've been subscribing to Dr. Boyce Watkins for some time. He and I have a mutual friend. And many brothers in the Hebrew Israelite community, we pay close attention to Dr. Boyce Watkins. He does some very good videos, has some very good and strong and sound opinions, and you know, he offers you know, something that a lot of us don't have within, you know, the black demographic, so to speak. So with that being said, I have to respectfully and strongly disagree with statements that he made in this video called "Dear Black People, Native Americans are not your friends." I have never seen Dr. Boyce Watkins do a video and use such convoluted and distorted and exaggerated facts and just, you know, throw them around carelessly like this. I've literally never seen it. Not saying that he has never done it, but I've never seen it. He usually is much more intellectually responsible, you know, on what he disseminates to the people. In this instance, though, I could say he definitely missed the mark. And I say that with all due respect. There's a video that we did, my organization, we did the SICARRI 8 months ago. It's called "The Truth About Native Americans and the Slave Trade." I suggest everybody to watch this. Is over an hour going thoroughly into historical documents, laws on books, the Bible, all kinds of things, you know, cohesively working together to paint a picture on the Native Americans and what they were doing from the time that they had contact with the so-called white man and in relations to the black population, etc., etc. I suggest that I'm not going to go into a whole lot of history, of course. I just want to kind of make this quick in reference to what he said. But I want to go into something because, again, what he just said was very distorted and exaggerated and, you know, very uncharacteristic of him. He talks about Native American tribes having slaves. Number one, we have to understand that only 4 Native American tribes out of the dozens, 4, had slaves. More were in slavery. Almost every Native American tribe had one had some percentage of their population go into slavery on plantations and or ships at one point or another. That's a historical fact. We presented in the video I just referenced. So out of the dozens of tribes, you know, into nearly 100, I believe, only 4. Okay, those were the civilized tribes, which there were 5 of, but of course the Seminoles did not refuse to practice. They did not practice. They refused to practice slavery on so-called African Americans. They gave us positions, and you know, if any of y'all know the history, y'all know the history. All right, don't let this nonsense trick you off the streets. Okay, we have to understand the people who we have been historically connected to, and not just historically connected to, but even presently are connected through mutual persecution. Okay, mutual oppression. My enemy's enemy is my friend. Based upon that principle alone, the Native Americans are our friends because they're getting gunned down by these same crackers that's gunning us down. Okay, at the same rate along with the Latinos. Okay, just like immigration. Immigration is not exclusively a Latino issue. Okay, my family comes from Haiti. What does that mean? That's a black issue. Jamaicans, Bahamians, you know, etc., etc. Immigration is a black issue as much as it's a Latino issue. All right. So let's not be stupid. Let's not be dumb. And let's not be intellectually irresponsible, and emotional. Let's not be any of those things, all right? Because those are the things that cause people to make the statements like Dr. Boyce Watkins made in this video, all right? Ignorant statements that other brothers also have made. Ignorant assumptions that brothers have, and conclusions that brothers have came to as a result of white supremacy and the game that's being played of divide and conquer on the Black, Hispanic, and Native American especially. All right, we're going to go into a brief historical document to substantiate that. And I'm going to hit a couple scriptures, of course, as the Israelites we always do. And then I'm going to let y'all go. All right, it's via the African American Registry. Okay. From the beginning of the United States history, American Native populations and Africans had an historical relationship on both cooperation and confrontation. Europeans first enslaved Indians, so they were the first and original slaves. So by virtue of that, we have a commonality and a common enemy and a common bond. Anyway, and also let me say this before I continue. You made a statement about Dr. Claude Anderson doing a reparations lawsuit, and then you're complaining about this and that. But here's the thing: the fact that any of y'all think you're going to get reparations is absolutely asinine in and of itself, and a waste of time, money, resource, and energy that could be actually getting put back into the community to educate and build and make us stronger for the upcoming front that we're going to have to fight on, which has absolutely nothing to do with getting greenbacks for reparations, brother. All right. Anyway, moving on. Europeans first enslaved Indians, introducing Africans to the Americas shortly after. Nicholas de Ovando, governor of Hispaniola, first mentioned African and Indian interaction in a report circa 1503. Indians who escaped generally knew the surrounding areas, avoided capture, and returned to help free enslaved Africans. This is the earliest account. You talk about historically the Native Americans are not our friends, but the earliest history that we have in the Americas of contacting them shows that they were our friends and they would use their knowledge and resources to escape slavery and then come back and come get us. Okay, so history has trumped what you said. You said you're just stating facts, but brother, truly you are distorting and exaggerating facts. Either you may be doing it purposely and devisively, or you may be doing it out of ignorance, but either way, it's being done. Okay. Indians who escaped generally knew the surrounding areas, avoided capture, and returned to free enslaved Africans. Europeans feared an Indian-African alliance, as white people always do. They fear an African or black alliance. They fear an Indian alliance, let alone an Indian and African alliance. We have to understand that the unification of Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian is the greatest fear that the white man will ever have. And as long as we continue propagating the rhetoric and the divisiveness of that within ourselves and amongst them, the white man is going to keep smiling and laughing all the way to the bank. All right? Understand that. The first slave rebellion occurred in Hispaniola in 1522, while the first on future United States soil, North Carolina, occurred in 1526. Both rebellions organized and executed by coalitions of Africans and Indians, working collaboratively, okay? Black people and Indians. So all these the most early history of our contact in the Americas shows that we were utmost allies and we were successful when we united together, all right? Europeans feared communities of escaped Africans known as Maroons and Columbos in frontier areas. The largest of these communities in the Republic of Palmores originated in the 1600s and at its peak had a population of approximately 11,000. This community, composed primarily of Africans, but including Indians, contained 3 villages, spiritual gather places, shops, and operated under its own legal system. We had autonomy together. Okay, its army repelled European military attacks until 1694. So for decades, we were unified, we prospered, and functioned autonomously within the borders of our enemy who stole this land from them. Come on, man. That's ridiculous. Don't do that. All right, I'm gonna just say it like that. Don't do that. Because what you're doing is very counterproductive to the cause that I believe we are collectively fighting for on one degree or another, right? So white reaction to some communities was extreme despite their limited numbers. Europeans sought to keep the two peoples separated and if possible, mutually hostile. So what have you done? You have assisted, Dr. Boyce Watkins, white supremacy. White supremacy is smiling and putting his thumb up to this video here. This video here was very detrimental if anybody adheres to it. All right. That brother included, because that brother is very intelligent, articulate, and influential amongst those of our people who are, for lack of a better term, conscious, socially conscious. All right. White reaction to such communities was extreme despite their limited numbers. Europeans sought to keep these two peoples separated and, if possible, mutually hostile. They taught Africans to fight Indians and bribed Indians to hunt escaped Africans, promising lucrative rewards. Indians who captured escaped Africans received 35 deerskins in Virginia or 3 blankets and a musket in the Carolinas. Further sowing division, whites introduced African slavery into the 5 civilized nations in the United States. Okay, this was all a device of the white man to keep us divided because of the power that they witnessed us have when we collaboratively came together. This is their land. We were forced to come here. The disposition we're in is to unite with them and ally with them. Okay, and I'm not even talking, this is before we even come into the Hebrew Israelite paradigm, which from what I understand, Dr. Boyce Watkins, you identify yourself as a Christian. So you, if you are a Christian and you believe in the God of the Bible and you believe in the Bible and you are not bearing witness to the fact that you are a person of that Bible, a Hebrew Israelite, and that the Native American along with you also is one, you need to take another look at that Bible before you wasting your time going up in some goddamn courtroom trying to get a reparations case that this cracker will never give you, right? Anyway, the U.S. government ended slavery among Indians by 1776. From pre-revolutionary times to the Civil War, the government negotiated treaties with Indian tribes that included promises by the Indians to return escaped slaves. However, while harboring many slaves, they returned none. The most powerful American Indian alliance, see, a lot of them were just harboring us. They took us into slavery, according to what the white man says, but they didn't enslave us. And then when the white man asked for us back, they wouldn't give us back because they had amalgamated us and assimilated us into their tribal culture. Okay, they had accepted us as their own. They never rejected us as their own. All right. However, while harboring many slaves, they returned none. The most powerful African Indian alliance linked escaped Africans who had settled in Florida and Seminoles, a word that means runaway, who were fleeing the Creek Federation. The Africans taught the Indians rice cultivation, and the groups formed an agricultural and military alliance. These are the things that, according to you, Dr. Boyce, and according to other prominent figures amongst the black community, these are all things we need. Economic autonomy, agricultural autonomy, and military might. These are all things that we had as a collaborative unit with the indigenous peoples of these lands. Right? So you saying that they're on our friends is you taking us away from something that we had already previously accomplished, that the white man has worked his ass off to stop from happening again. You are furthering the white man's agenda, period. In 1816, a U.S. soldier reported that prosperous plantations existed for 50 miles along the banks of the Apalachicola River, however you say it. The African Seminole forces repeatedly repelled U.S. slave owners, possess and the U.S. Army. The Second Seminole War resulted in 1,600 dead and cost over $40 million. The purchase of Florida from Spain was the U.S. government's attempt to eliminate it as a refuge for runaways. Before the Civil War, many Native American nations on the eastern seaboard of the United States became biracial communities. All right? African Americans were well represented in the Trail of Tears. By 1860, the 5 civilized nations in the Indian Territory consisted of 18% African Americans. The Seminoles appointed 6 black Seminole members of its governing council. I mean, had us as leaders in their communities and amongst their tribes. Come on, this is the historical fact. Don't say, oh, don't get mad at me, because I'm telling you the facts. You stated things off the top of your head that was essentially rhetoric that's been propagated that people just repeat. All right, which is, again, far from intellectually responsible, which is something you rarely ever are. So this is I'm very taken aback by this. But it is what it is. Some people just don't know. Some people haven't done these studies, haven't applied themselves to, truly delving into the climate and what was going on during these, times and relationships between these people. This is something that we have done because we view Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian as all the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So it's of extreme importance to us. All of these things, right? So moving on, the Seminoles appointed 6 Black Seminole members of its governing council. After the Civil War, the Buffalo Soldiers, 6 regiments of African-American United States Army troops, helped to end Indian resistance to the United States control after the Civil War. The most significant African Native American was John Horse, a Black Seminole chief who was a master marksman and diplomat in Florida and Oklahoma by the time of the Civil War, the Black Seminole chief in Mexico and Texas. Horse negotiated a treaty with the United States government in 1870. On July 4th of that year, when his Seminole nation crossed into Texas, it was a historic moment. An African people had arrived together as a nation on this soil under the command of their ruling monarch, Chief John Horse. Today, many African Americans can trace their ancestry in part to an Indian tribe. All right, so we have to be honest about it, and we also have to deal with the fact of the immense amount of European infiltration, so-called Caucasian infiltration into many Native Indian tribes, and we have to deal with the part that plays on, the white supremacist ideology that may exist amongst some of them, or some of the unfavorable treatment that we have got. They have also been victim of some of that same stuff. And on them reservations, a lot of time they're living worse than we are in the ghettos and in the projects. All right. As somebody who's been to these reservations, I can tell you this with firsthand knowledge of witnessing this. These guys are lost. They're drinking themselves to death. They have the highest suicide rate, and they are most likely to be murdered by a police officer during a routine traffic stop. These are the facts. These are the numbers that do not lie. And also numbers that do not lie, again, are the white infiltration of their tribes. And this is where some of this stuff comes from white supremacy, the same way the white man has infiltrated our communities and made everybody think that the more high yellow you are and the lighter your damn eyes, the more beautiful you are. All right? White supremacy has ran amok on Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. And unless we truthfully make a concerted effort to counteract that, we're going to continue to fall victim to it and keep saying, keep getting caught with our foot in our mouth, as Boyce Watkins was in this video. You see what I'm saying? The fact is, I live in San Diego now. In San Diego, where I live, there is a prominent a Native American reservation called the Barona. They're of the Kumeyaay Native Americans. You know who owns that? A white man. There's a little white boy that goes to school with a brother in my organization's brother-in-law. Goes to high school with him. That high school white boy is seeing $20,000 a month. Straight white boy off of money generated from the Barona Indian Reservation Casino. White boy. Where I'm from, in Tacoma, Washington, where the mutual friend I have with Boyce Watkins is also from. That reservation in Tacoma, Washington, the Puyallup Reservation, over 70% of the residents of that reservation are Caucasian. How is it that these white people own up all this land within Native American reservations? How is that possible? Because the white man is the devil and he is infiltrated, and with his infiltration comes the infiltration of his ideology and philosophy into our minds. We have to counteract that, and we have to think from our perspective. Our perspective is not just the anti of their perspective. It's not just, okay, I'm just going to be counter everything they are. Our perspective is something that's entirely different and unique, something that's not found on this continent. Okay, something that's found in the Bible, truthfully. So I just want to hit a couple scriptures, and then I'll close out. Right, this is Jeremiah 50:33. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together. All that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go. The children of Judah represent the southern kingdom in the Bible, today who will be known as the African American, West Indian, and Haitian. We are oppressed together with our brothers of the northern kingdom, who we departed from nearly 3,000 years ago, which would be your so-called Latinos and Native Indians. They mingled and mixed with various people, Mongoloids and white people and, all kind of stuff, and Middle Eastern people, and they migrated here to the Americas and begin to build these civilizations up here in America. We were reunited together in slavery in this new Babylon. That's what Jeremiah the 50th chapter is all about. And our captors, or these white nations, they have held us fast. They refuse to let us go. And didn't Farrakhan talk about that at the Million Man March last year, right? And I would get Ezekiel 37 and 22. And I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel. So we're going to be reunited, brought back to our land, and made one nation. This is biblical prophecy. But what does that mean if we have to be made one nation? That prior to this prophecy coming to pass, that we operate as two separate nations, and really even worse now. So that's why you see the divide. Oh, I'm black, I'm Latin, I'm native. We're operating like that, though we are one. But God, the Most High Yahweh in heaven, through His Son Yahweh Shah, who you call Christ, a black man, is going to make us one. And one king shall be king to them all, and they shall be no more two nations, neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms any more at all. The division of us will cease. It can no longer, that rhetoric can no longer be propagated. That narrative, it's so pleasing to the white man. It's ridiculous. I really thought that, the brother, Dr. Boyce Watkins, would have bore witness to that already and not fell victim. But it is what it is. Maybe if it be the will of the Most High, he'll come across this and possibly rethink his stance. I don't know, but at the end of the day, my heart's prayer and desire is that there's somebody get edified and learn, from this video. With that, again, I extend all glory, honor, and praise to the highest Abanawa Yahweh, Bahashem Hamashiach Yahweh Shai, and say shalom.